Hey friends, disclaimer, this is not a political video, but by now all of us have seen the interaction with Vance, Trump, and Zelensky. Now, I don't know what their strategy was, I don't know what the desired outcome was, but what that moment has elevated is this awareness of how do you address conversations when they enter into the realm of a tough conversation. I'm Sherry Yellin, I'm founder of the Yellin Group. I get to work with leaders and with teams every single day to help them lead, learn, and live the way the brain works best. Because when we do that, we can get better results with less effort. And when we don't do that, we're actually creating chaos and costs and consequences. So this idea of tough conversation is one that comes up a lot. It's probably in the top 3 topics that we talk about with our clients every single day. Now, what I consider to be a tough conversation may be slightly different than what you consider to be a tough conversation, but usually a tough conversation involves about 3 different things. There's something of value at stake. Maybe the quality of a project, could be your reputation, it might be someone's performance, but something is at stake that's valuable to the people involved. A second characteristic is that emotion is involved. By the way, if your brain's involved, emotion is always involved, but there's an elevated emotion involved in these kinds of conversations. And the third characteristic is that there's opposing opinion. And that opposition may be this much and it might be this much, but there's a difference in opinion. Because when you put all those 3 things together, it's really important that we address this in a way that the brain works best. And that's usually counter to how we address it. So how we usually address it is that we come into the conversation reasoning with someone. Let's say your teenager comes home and says, "Hey mom," or "Hey dad, I'm going to this party this weekend." And we immediately rush into reasoning with all the reasons why they shouldn't do that and all the consequences that could happen, hoping that if we reason enough, they'll relate to us. They will say, "Thank you, mother," or "Thank you, father, for bringing this to my awareness. I didn't think about all those things." And then if we reason, they'll relate, and then they'll regulate. They'll actually do what we want them to do. The likelihood, it's possible, but the likelihood is slim that that actually happens. What we want to do is work with how the brain works best in tough conversations when those 3 elements are involved. And it's the opposite direction. In fact, if you are doing the reasoning, hoping for relating and regulating, you're really kind of going down the wrong way of a one-way road. So what we want to do is go the opposite direction. So I want you to think about maybe a tough conversation you have coming up. Instead of going the direction of reasoning, relating, regulating, we want to regulate, then relate, then we can get to reasoning. So there are a couple of reasons why. Let's walk through it. So step 1, we want to regulate. That means when that teenager comes home and tells us about the party, it might mean pausing for a minute, taking a deep breath. It might be, "Can I have a few minutes and let me get back with you?" So regulate yourself helps regulate the other person. Then we want to relate. So here we want to maybe hear a little bit more information. The reason why is we don't want to trigger someone's brain to listen for disagreement. And that's exactly what we do when we rush in with reasoning. If we can regulate first and relate, we are triggering our brain, and hopefully their brain too, to listen for agreement. And then and only then do we have an opportunity to get to reasoning. So rather than reasoning, hoping for relating and regulating, we want to regulate, then relate, then we can get to reasoning. That's the path you want to follow when the desired outcome is collaboration and the ultimate purpose of communication, which is connection. So you can subscribe here for more videos on information of how to lead, learn, and live the way the brain works best. When we do that, we really can get better results with less effort.